moves slow, time moves fast. In this dance we call the past. Mental health, a fragile thread, but we'll find strength. Let love spread, life's a climb. Just take a step, rise above, find your breath. In the darkness we will find a shining light to free our mind, to free our mind. Self-will bloom like petals bloom, shedding tears will heal the wounds and the chaos. Let's find peace, embrace the pain, let it release.
Relax your mind. It's divine time.
Cool. Okay. I'm glad we got that fixed. Oh, yeah. Good picture too. I'm not sure if you caught my self-worth, but ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and just jump straight into this. I'm going to throw this up, and I want to hear what you say on that. I'm going to flow straight into a conversation. So regarding self-worth and its importance.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna let you speak, and I'm gonna jump in as well. We're gonna have a conversation.
Gotcha.
When it comes down to self-worth, what do you feel is the most important thing?
Man, self-worth, you gotta know who you are. To begin to feel good about yourself, period. You have to know who you are. Otherwise, you are, if you're taking what anybody else says that they think you are, and you're trying to apply it to your life, then it's not going to work out.
Exactly.
History of your family is important. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying, I was like, what I had recorded earlier, that right there ties into identity.
Yeah.
The identity is, so I have it down for the 4 types of self-worth, which the first one is identity. The identity is really who people think you are and what they think you're like. So I'm like, in all honesty, who you think you are, and then also a lot of you take into consideration what they think other people think that they are.
Right.
And therefore, the story that I gave was when I was in the Marines, how I allowed the Marine Corps to become my identity.
Right.
And then when I lost that identity, I didn't know who I was. However, when it comes down to self-worth is that foundation. And then everything on top of that.
Yeah. It takes you a while to get there when you don't know who you are initially, or if you have to depend on other people to tell you. I mean, it should be something that happens when you're growing up, but 9 times out of 10, it ain't gonna happen. And both parents are working these days, so there's nobody here to sit and tell you the story. Yeah, pretty much everybody. It's not like it was back then. You had somebody sitting talking to you, or you were watching your family operate, and you seen people that look like you. And like for me, it was my grandfather, my mom's dad, my uncles. I mean, just kind of watched them and how they lived. And then my dad was there too, so he was there. That was majority of where I got the identity from. My identity from, because he told us about the history of his family, and he made sure that we had family reunions. And I was always around his side of the family and my mom's side of the family as well. So we just had that was grounding for us. I mean, later on, it all went bad because it's the progression of people on drugs and dying young. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that happened that just didn't track. But identifying who I was from my dad's perspective, from what he taught me, it was important. It was actually the good thing. The sad part about it is my younger brothers and sisters didn't really get it at all because my dad had passed on and my mom was preoccupied with trying to figure out how to take care of 9 kids by herself without the support of her family. So I watched the identity crisis with my brothers and my sister, my youngest sister. So yeah.
I love how you brought up the family. You were around a lot of family.
Right.
I had brought up earlier when I was just talking about self-worth by myself. So by the way, self-worth is the internal belief that they are valuable and worthy of love.
Right.
Ultimately, the definition of self-worth.
Right.
And I briefly spoke about how our beliefs and values play a big part in self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that you are brought up plays a big part on your self-worth. The things that are said to you from your parents and those who you hold close to you, and even those around you. So growing up in your household, that plays a big part of your self-worth. Are you being talked down to more than you're being uplifted?
That's right.
So that right there is teaching you how to talk to yourself at the same time.
Right.
So if
Right.
you're a child, if you're sitting there and your parents or anybody in the household, anybody that you really care about, anybody who you actually think about, is constantly telling you that you ugly or you can't do nothing right, or I wish that you were dead like your father or your mother, whatever you do, you're gonna start saying those things to yourself also. That's gonna play a major part into your self-worth and also your self-esteem. The
Right.
self-esteem, the self-esteem adds on to that foundation of self-worth.
Right.
So therefore, now you're going to be thinking about how to look at life. So what I was talking about was self-esteem. With high self-esteem, you look at life in a more optimistic way. With low self-esteem, you're a little more of a pessimist when it comes down to things.
That's it.
Now, a lot of individuals with depression, they are usually end up having more of a pessimistic mindset, and they end up walking themselves down that spiral
Right.
because they think of how something is bad, and instead of thinking and finding the silver lining of it, they will talk themselves about how things can be worse and completely neglect how things can be
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. And I think you're right because for the most part, when you're a pessimist, when you're pessimistic like that, you miss most of your blessings. Because instead of you being open to things happening in your favor, you're constantly talking about the negative things that are happening and all that's wrong in your life, and whatever you put out is what you attract, and that energy of the negative is going to put you around a bunch of negative people, and I've
Mhm.
seen it happen, and even with counseling people, young people, it's the same thing. It's like their the whole driving force is to try to figure out who they are. I mean,
Yes.
they somebody, and the conversation always starts out with somebody told me that I should be this because they think I do this well. What
Yeah.
do you think about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What do you know? What do you know about your talents? Do you believe that you have talents? And the ones that you do show, do you believe it's yours or something that you're copying from somebody else? I mean,
Yep.
when you are constantly talking about what somebody else is saying, I mean, it's like they're looking for, what do they call it? It's like they're looking for not gratification. I guess it's another
Validation.
term. Yeah, they're looking for validation from other people instead of trying to find it in themselves. Or 9 times out of 10, I don't even know to look in themselves to find it, because when you're pushed out in the world, you're gonna sink or swim. And the small things, like I started working when I was young. I was like 12, 13 years old, and cut grass. So I met a lot of people, and I knew
Hmm.
what I could do well. I knew I was not a sports person. I played football, but anything outside of that, I was not really a huge sports person. So I didn't. That was not my arena. Um,
Okay.
but I had other people around me that were. So, but I knew myself well enough to where it was okay that I wasn't like anybody else, and I wasn't pressured by these people saying, "Well, I do this and that, whatever," beating their chest. And I'm like, "Okay, cool, do what you do. It ain't got nothing to do with me because my life is a little bit different. I'm going down a different path."
Right.
And I appreciate my dad for that piece, because early on, when I think we were living in California, and Michael Jackson and some other stars had came into town. We were in San Bernardino, and so my sisters were like, "I'm going to get my poster and I want to have him sign it." And so I got a little bit too excited. He was like, "Hold 1 second." He said, "Them people shit between two legs like you do." He said, "They're a person like you are. Don't get so excited. You can do just as much as they can and probably better." So that was a
Yeah.
grounding point for me. I was like, okay, no problem. I'm not, stars who they are. They work just like anybody else works. They do whatever, and they can do any, I can do whatever they can do. And
Exactly.
and better probably. But at the same time,
Anything you can do, I can do better.
I'm not starstruck by what other people are saying that they are, and I get it because the world has made a hard left when it comes to supporting people, and it's like every man for itself, and that was when I started hearing that phrase so frequently, and not this whole family camaraderie thing or people supporting people. Because I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but people used to help people that was because if the car got stalled on the street, people used to get out and help you push the car onto the side of the road or in a parking lot.
Yeah. Some states actually have that law. If you see the four ways on, it's against the law not to pull over.
That's crazy, man. It's
I mean,
wild.
yeah, a lot of
And
people
I get it on the freeway because you could be running into a serial killer or something.
Mhm.
But on the street, on the streets, when you're at a light and the car stops, I'm like, okay, well, if nobody gets out and helps, the traffic's going to get jammed up. Can somebody just get out and push? I mean, but that's it was a sign to me that the times had changed and more people were thinking along the lines of self-support versus supporting the community. Um, but then it's funny because me and my sister had a conversation the other night, and she was talking about how she's kind of put off with Black people for a number of reasons, and I was like, I get what you're saying because
I think a lot of us can't understand that.
right.
We can make it weird sometimes.
Because we show our ass before we show anything else. You see what I'm saying? So it's like
Literally.
okay, I don't love. I used to have a love for Black folks, but I don't anymore. And it was like she was saying that she wished at one point that if she died, she'd come back a white person and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, wow, I get what you're saying.
That's a bit much.
But the idea that we can plant that across an entire race of people is horrible, and it goes back to the Willie Lynch and all the other concepts that made us pull apart from each other. And then it doesn't help that the large amount of the population or community is poor or in a situation where they have to hurt each other in order to get somewhere.
Mhm.
So that doesn't help either. But all this Facebook, TikTok, all the rest of these things that are just showing what you can do. I mean, you'd have to be almost, you'd have to go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and write all that stuff down to try every last one of them if you were not secure in who you were, to try to figure out who you are. And that's the hard part. That's the messed up part.
It's funny you say that. Like if you go back and watch the recording that I did,
Right.
everything you just said, I damn near said as well. Now,
Right.
the biggest thing that I had actually ended the episode, I had ended my little rants with this.
Right.
What I said was, I was like, we live in a time where your status defines many self-worth. A lot of people make their self-worth based off of what their status is.
Right.
So, for example, people who are working in McDonald's, they usually will talk down to themselves, or other people will look at them as if they are like low. Like, for example, I was working at a gas station, and people will come in and talk down to me as if that's all that I have and that's all that I know. I mean, there's individuals that will look at people working a type of job and think that that's all that they are. And I'm just like, it's horrible. We are living in a time where, like, the more likes and views that you have, the more you're worth it to society.
That's it.
A lot of people are chasing, you could be chasing a blue check mark. That's before you could actually purchase it.
Right.
Like, I talk to people, individuals who are like dating and everything. They don't even exchange phone numbers anymore. They're like, yo, what's your Facebook? What's your Instagram?
That's it. What's your IG? Right.
Yeah, how bumping you are on that, they'll try and make up their mind if they want to talk to you. Now, I was watching a video earlier. Matter of fact, I wish I could pull that video up. No, I can't pull that video up. We'll keep on talking. I'm gonna pull that video up so that way we can discuss it a little bit. And it brought up a lot of good points. A lot of individuals are sitting here doing things that really it talks about the different types of ways that you love somebody.
Right.
I was just like, yo, you getting deep on that, mainly because of the fact that a lot of people may see something and that's what they end up running to. They run to that rather than actually thinking about, okay, who is this person? What do I love about this person?
Right.
Is this the one right here? No, that's when you stop. It might not even go back that far. Oh, here we go.
Mhm.
I might have found it. Ooh, we about to have a good time. All right, so I'm gonna play this video real quick,
Mhm.
and we can go ahead and watch that. I like doing it. It pops up. There we go.
Individual. But what do these platforms actually tell you? They reveal plenty about achievements,
Can you hear
job
it?
titles,
Yeah.
educational backgrounds,
Okay.
and the number of people they know. They showcase numerous photos of the cool places they visited, with the individual usually disproportionately in the foreground. Let's also consider the carefully curated collection of technologically enhanced selfies. These might reveal something about the levels of narcissism in these individuals. However,
Mm.
beyond that, they provide little insight into the kind of person we're actually dealing with. Our focus and sometimes obsession with status, accomplishments, and work, rather than with people and their characters and actual well being, reflects what we value as a society.
Ugly ass
We're
Cybertruck.
obsessed with
Mm.
achievement, trapped in a cycle where one's latest success measures personal worth. This fixation raises a crucial question. Have we stopped recognizing each other's inherent value, seeing ourselves merely
Mhm.
as products of our accomplishments? And if so, how does this impact our behavior and well being? This video explores the predicament of basing our self worth on our achievements and if there's anything we can do to escape this cycle.
And the
We're
self-worth.
all human beings, aren't we? We're
Wow.
humans because we are, meaning our innate humanness makes us human. So, why does society often dehumanize those who don't meet expected performance standards, labeling them as losers or
Mm.
failures? Why does it seem that human value is not based on our humanity, but on how well we meet society's expectations? To be human, being human isn't enough these days. To be human, we have to achieve, conform, and display ourselves doing so. Thus, we could say that we have stopped seeing each other as human beings and started
Mm.
regarding each other as human doings. A human
Mm.
doing has little or no inherent worth. Its value depends on what it achieves. It doesn't derive its identity from being, but from doing, or better,
Mm.
from conforming to what its surroundings deem worthy of doing. Current society is very much geared toward achievement, especially in the material sense. We tend to admire people who make a lot of money, are successful in their careers, and have fancy job titles attached to their LinkedIn profiles. We judge others and ourselves based on what we achieve. Hence, when meeting someone, the cardinal question is, so, what do you do? Of course,
Mm.
this question doesn't refer to what we do in our leisure time, our spiritual development, our
Mm.
social life, and how we treat others. No, this question almost always points to what we do for a living, our position among the working, our rank within the career pursuing masses. Funnily
Mm.
enough, as this question is often asked, most people have their elevator pitches ready, as if they are regurgitating their own personal product summaries, concisely demonstrating their usefulness. The asker of the question must view one's position as valuable, or at least interesting, as one's estimation in the asker's eyes depends on it. So, you're cleaning toilets? Okay, your rank is somewhere between the unemployed and a McDonald's cook. I'm sure you'll get along well. Ah, you're a product
Mm.
manager. Now we're talking. You can sit at the cool kids table between the senior marketing employee and the startup entrepreneur. So you're a YouTuber. How's that going for you? Oh, do you mean full time? Wait, 2 million followers? I'm not sure which table I should assign you to. How much money do you make a month? And is YouTube an actual career? We're constantly estimating each other's worth, and the common denominator is achievement. In a society like this, which bases one's value so heavily on one's accomplishments, many start to base their self worth on them. American psychologist Leon Festinger proposed the social comparison theory, which explains that individuals compare themselves to others as a form of measurement and self assessment to determine where they stand. We can see this happen on social media, for example, when it comes to beauty standards, the ongoing cycle of comparison, and the effects of this on self esteem and self worth. We can also apply this to achievement. The so-called rat race is an example. It's a glorified pursuit of status, money, and material objects. Today's hustle culture is a rat race on steroids, always achieving, never enough, always being on one's purpose, which often refers to someone earning a fortune by dropshipping or selling overpriced courses on YouTube. And those who promote this hustle culture the loudest often profit just by selling that idea. Their hustle is selling you the dream of hustling. As a culture, we don't seem to understand the irony of all this madness, that we're willing to spend our already hard-earned money on courses teaching us a lifestyle of endless, self-defeating toil. We're eager to become slaves and even willing to pay for it. And so many young men and women desperately seek out some internet guru who is making bank just by dictating them to work their asses off and constantly crush it. But for what? For the clacking of tongues, as the ancient Romans would say. We do it because society then perceives us as valuable, and our worth in other people's eyes increases as our achievements surge. In his book Burnout Society, South Korean-born German philosopher Byung-Chul Han describes how we have transitioned from a disciplinary society to an achievement society, saying, 21st century society is no longer a disciplinary society, but rather an achievement society. Also, its inhabitants are no longer obedience subjects, but achievement subjects. They are entrepreneurs of themselves. End quote.
That's crazy. But that's true.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop that, but we
But yeah, I
understand.
mean, the funny thing about that is we're doing exactly what the 1% wants us to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Trip over ourselves, kill ourselves.
we are on the chessboard, and we haven't understood yet. A lot of us have not understood how to get out of the game and how much
Man.
the game is costing us.
And the sad part about it is the only way this can be changed is if we're teaching the younger generation something alternate to what we're doing right now. And when I
Mhm.
say younger generation, I mean your
Well,
kids. And
it's not even so much just the younger generation, because if you think about this, there are individuals who are your age and my age who do not know these things. So if you know these things, it's not just for you to teach the younger generation. You should be teaching those who are willing to listen, because
willing to listen, that's the
they can
piece.
pass on to other individuals who you may not know. That's the
Right.
only way that we're really going to change it. I mean, you know how they say how you got like a lot of religious individuals trying to pass the word to everybody else.
Right.
I guess if you have the information, you should pass it to those who are willing to listen, those who lend an ear to listen, because
Right.
ultimately that will make it to where we can reach the masses. The same way that I aim to do with this podcast. I'm not on here trying to reach everybody, just those who want to hear it, those
Right.
who need to hear it, because then
Right.
they're going to be the ones that will take it and run with it and pass that knowledge and wisdom on to others.
That's it.
And that is my goal. And when it comes down to it, back onto the self-worth, cultivating self-worth in a world of comparison. A lot of us are comparing ourselves to what others have and looking down at others based off of what we have that they don't. When
That's
in
it.
all honesty, we're limiting ourselves by thinking that we're better than somebody else. When you come to realize that, you know what, we all are connected and all should be working as one, helping one
That's
another.
it. That's it.
The more you love yourself and know yourself, the better you can be for everybody else.
Right. And the thing,
Look at the big machine. They are making us all slaves.
You are exactly right, Ian. They have made us all just part of the big machine. They are making us all slaves. Facts
that's
on
it.
facts.
That's it.
We
100%.
are living in a giant rat race, and in all honesty, we're all trying to chase the cheese, but nobody wants to help one another get to the cheese. We will want to sit here and fight one another, or either mislead another person to try and get what we want. When we're not realizing that me hurting you is hurting me at the same time. And when that karmic debt comes around, it's gonna fuck me over more times than I tried to fuck you over.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they've already done the numbers on what the fallout's going to be. They've already done the numbers what the fallout's going to be. So a certain amount of people are going to be like, fuck it, I don't really give a goddamn. You got some people that are like, oh my God, I got to do it. I mean, you got people killing themselves if they lose likes. I lost 100 likes today. What did I do differently? So you're in the mirror, you're changing yourself. I mean, they're going completely deep in over this stuff. I mean, again, counseling young people, I've seen it. It's like you're falling apart because you lost likes.
I
I mean,
love the fact that
and
you
I'm
brought
from a
that up.
generation that stuff don't really matter. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing like this
So you know how earlier I brought up the 4 traits of self-worth.
right.
We talked about identity. I went a little bit over that. We
Mhm.
also have the self-compassion. There's a lot of individuals who, when something bad happens, they're not giving themselves that compassion. They're not telling,
No,
they're thinking so much about, oh, I can't do this right, I can't do this right, whoop
right,
yada, yada, yada. And
right.
oftentimes it leads to them unaliving themselves or either causing more damage than has already been done,
That's it.
putting themselves in a deeper hole. We need to learn how to speak that love into ourselves. There's a
Right,
lot of individuals, and I had stated on when I did the recording, if the a lot of us are codependent, we will sit here and feed into others, hoping that it'll make us feel better. The
right,
same energy we give others, we need to give ourselves that same energy on double fold.
right,
Tell young you can only get what you want if you can help someone else get what they want.
Yes, you can only get what you want if you help someone else get what they want. I
right.
agree completely. But what I was talking about with the self compassion is, I'm like, if we I'm going to start incorporating this into my life because I'm
Mhm.
always giving positivity to others, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm lacking on giving it to myself. Every
Right,
time that I give positivity to another person, I'm gonna give it double times back. So if I give someone a compliment, I'm gonna give myself 2 compliments. With that, I'm gonna start building my self love up, and the
right,
hardest part is truly believing it. Because we can sit here and talk about we can say anything to ourselves, but if you don't believe it, you're really just bumping your gums, you know?
right. I think the most important thing anyone could ever do outside of listening to affirmations that other people have written is to
Mhm.
write them for yourself. I mean, I before I even started getting into YouTube affirmations, I was learning on a level to where I had to literally write down what I wanted to manifest, right?
Mhm.
And I was going back in my Dropbox and I saw where I had written literally a
Thank
number
you.
of things where I was like, hey, wow, I was not really leaning on other people to tell me what I should think or how I should what kind of affirmation I should listen to. It's
Mhm.
it's good information to know how you affirm yourself. So I have versus I want. All this stuff is good. It's good information, but it still should be the first person that you should try it on is yourself. You
Yes.
should write that down and look, get independent. Turn off your phone, turn off the computer, stop watching TV, and just get deep into yourself and start writing things from the inside of yourself
You're
versus
exactly right.
trying to hear from the outside and do it what somebody else is doing because you're just running yourself in a circle. That's what's happening, especially if it's not your own voice.
Yo, Ian just said he was like, "Yo, in life you have to count your blessings and not the problems." I
That
love the
makes
fact
a
that you said that,
difference.
Ian, because there's something that I used to always do, like back in the day when I was dating. I used to say, I was like, you know what? This is what I want you to do. Write everything that you're looking for in a man down on a piece of paper. They would do that. I'm like, okay, cool. Now on the back, write everything. Write what I want you to do now is circle all those things you can do for yourself. And ultimately, what it comes down to is there's a lot of people who can sit here and say all these things about somebody else, but then at the same time, they may be lacking those same parts. And one of the issues about it, count your blessings and not the problems.
Mm-hmm.
You can, I guarantee you, I can go to almost anybody, tell them, I want you to write all the bad things that you don't like about yourself. Write all the things you don't like about yourself on a piece of paper. They're gonna fill that piece of paper up, or probably fill halfway, or either roll on to the back, keep writing. And then if you ask them, tell them,
Right.
I want you to write down all the things you love about yourself. They're probably going to be able to pick maybe 10.
That's it, because because it's self-loathing.
Mm-hmm.
They've learned to hate themselves before they learn to love themselves.
You have to help yourself.
Yeah, in life you have to count. What? Didn't even show it. Life has no remote. You have to help yourself. Facts are
That's right.
facts. Yeah, you
That's
got, you got some, you got
right.
some quotes today, Ian. Okay, I see you. I see you.
Mhm. That's right. I mean,
You glad it's not the movie Click.
right, right. It's like you have
But
to.
oh no, I was saying, go ahead.
I said it's self-loathing. You have to learn to love yourself if you haven't learned to love yourself, then you learn to hate yourself. That's the
Yeah,
first thing you learn to do is hate yourself and what you stand for or who you actually are. Like you said earlier about being called ugly and for me when I was growing up, it was dark skin versus light skin.
oh God.
We had some family members that were saying if you're dark skinned, I mean, there was a whole saying in regards to that. It was a '70s thing, but at the end of the day, it was like if the lighter you are, the more acceptable you are than the white passing people, all that stuff. But if you're a dark skin, if you're brown or dark skin, then you are less likely to be accepted by people. Which for me, again, we didn't have social media like we do now. So I imagine if we did have social media back then, that was a concept. You'd have a lot of destroyed, a lot of destroyed people. But
Facts.
at the end of the day, man, it's yeah, those things. I mean, and it always it gets in the way of us being able to support one another. I mean, it's almost awkward to support someone these days that's a stranger. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, well, I'll give you an example. So, if you're standing next to if you're standing next to someone, the first thing you feel is awkwardness.
Does not and should not come from other people. Your love comes from within you.
Yes. Love does not, it should not come from other people. Your love comes from within you. I need to change the voice on that. Give me one second. That may sound like you're earlier. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that at the end of the day, it's harder for people to accept or to even stand next to each other or sit next to each other in the bus or walk next to each other. And it's not even the basis of race. It's just your energy colliding with other people is initially uncomfortable, and most people don't push past it to even get to know the person. They're stuck in this thing where okay, I've had enough, or like you saying before, if we're sitting in the same room together, why are we texting
Not
each
love
other?
other people if you do not love yourself.
Facts. You cannot love other people if you cannot love yourself.
Right, right, right.
So with it, how you were going in, the last two types of self-worth that I have down is self-confidence and self-esteem.
Hmm.
The self-esteem is the evaluations of self, which I feel falls into exactly what we're talking about, the world of comparison,
That's it.
the constantly comparing ourselves to others.
Right,
I had when I did the recording, I talked about high self-esteem and low self-esteem, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. The high self-esteem, oftentimes we have a higher self-esteem, we're looking at the world in a more optimistic way, and with a
right,
low self-esteem, we're looking at the world in a more pessimistic way.
right,
When it comes down to self-worth, like I said before, that's that foundation. The self-worth, you really have to find who you are. That's your values and your beliefs. Understanding those things to where you can be solid on your identity. You're
hmm
not trying to fake the funk to fit in. You're not doing things because that's what is in or cracking right now,
right.
or popping, if some people want to say that.
Mhm.
Ways of saying it. Being who you are. Like with me, growing up, I did not care what anybody thought. And the thing that bothers me now is there's sometimes where people may say or do things and it bothers me. And then I get mad at myself because I'm like, I never used to let these things bother me. When did I start caring? When did I
Right,
start caring what other people think? And I mean,
right,
talking to my wife, like she said that growing up, she didn't care. Like people would see her and make whole stories about her because they knew nothing about her, just trying to get her upset. She's like, okay,
right,
cool. There's been situations where people have done things, said things to her, or try to make her feel a type of way, and she was like, okay, cool. And I would ask them like, yo, how come you ain't defending yourself? She's like, because they can believe what they want to believe, and as long as I know the truth, it doesn't matter.
that's
So they
it.
can say whatever they want to say, they can do whatever they want to do,
Yeah,
but they know it's a lie. I know it's a lie, even if they don't know it's a lie. I know that it's a lie. So why am I going to sit here and try to defend myself to people who don't even know me? And I'm just like,
exactly.
you are a wise woman. Right at the time, I was like, that's bitch mentality. This is the way
Right,
that I do. But thinking about it, it's like you are a very wise woman to be able to sit there and have people talk, and say all these things about you, and for you to just be like, okay, that doesn't affect my life because I know it's not true.
yeah,
That right
you,
there into that self worth,
yeah, you're
actually knowing and believing yourself. that also provided that confidence. She had that self-confidence in herself. She had the beliefs of what she believed in, what it was that she was doing.
Right.
With her believing in what it was that she was doing, made it to where nothing could stop her.
Right.
So with that, like my sister has said once before in the past, if you allow someone to bring you out of your character, they have now made you their slave.
Right.
Now, you have many different types of warfare. You got psychological warfare, you got spiritual warfare, you got physical warfare. When a person can get you to do something, they have just imposed a fog of war, as I like to call it, in your mind. With that fog of war, which you're not thinking clearly, it's the same thing as when you become enraged and you end up doing things to where if someone was reporting you and you look back at that and you're like, that couldn't have been me. That's who I am. That was a temporary moment of insanity because you allowed yourself to get out of character. You allowed yourself to become something that you're not. You allowed your identity to get cracked.
Right.
Depending on how far you take it, you may lose yourself, as Eminem would say, in the moment. It's interesting how all this can tie in together when you start putting the pieces together. You lose your identity, and I spoke about this via the story that I told of my life while I was in the Marines. When you get a crack in your identity, your self-confidence slowly starts to ooze out. And when your self-confidence starts to ooze out, it's easier for people to affect your self-esteem.
Right.
And when people start to affect your self-esteem, it's harder for you to provide that compassion to yourself, to let yourself know to see things in a brighter light. Because that self-esteem, when it starts to ooze out, you'll start looking at things differently. And if you are still looking at it in a positive way, you'll also notice. Exactly, that's that self-esteem. The self-esteem falls into the mind. The way that you look at it is the way that you will start. The way that you think about it is the way that you will start to feel. That's how it deals with a lot of people with depression.
Right.
So with that, not being able looking at things in a pessimistic way, you're gonna find it's gonna make it very difficult for you to give yourself positive love. It's gonna be very difficult for you to give yourself the compassion that you need. You have to show yourself the love that you are seeking.
Right.
Because if you cannot, chances are nobody cares about you the way that you care about yourself. I'm positive about that, which means that other people will literally, if you show weakness to others, they will take that and use it against you.
Yeah.
They don't do it right then and there, but later on down the line, they will, or they're going to have it in their mind and look at you differently.
That's it. I mean, that's what trolls are made of. Trolls try to find something negative about everybody in order to build themselves up. I mean, right. And those are people with the less self-esteem are the ones that have to step on somebody else in order to make themselves feel good. Definitely. Yeah.
See, I want to go over that. I watched a video earlier that was talking about the 9 ways to handle people who don't respect you, and it was Denzel Washington talking about it. I might end up having to do that video. I might end up having to have that discussion later on at some point. That it brought up a lot of good things. One of those was being silent, and 2, it was recognizing rejections of others. Right. And I mean, those are things that I noticed over time, that I learned over time, just based off of a lot of things that I have gone through. It's just a lot of information, a lot of good information was given there. But ultimately, what all this self-worth comes down to is just living authentically. The ultimate act of self-worth is to live authentically. Right. Once you find yourself, even if you're starting to find yourself, because me and you both were on that podcast episode we did with Mr. Impossible, where we talked about the yo-yo mentality, and the hardest part is cutting that string. And why is cutting the string the hardest part? Because you have to start all over. Right. But the main thing that you fall back onto is that foundation, your self-worth, those values and beliefs. So living authentically, if you are living and being who you truly are, then nothing will be able to stop you, because you believe what you're doing is correct. You believe what you're doing is right. You know what you're doing is right. Now, granted, I say that there is good, there is bad, because everybody was brought up differently. Maybe you were brought up in a household to where these things were normal, so that right there becomes normal for you. Right. Yes. I agree. You should never have to put anyone down to make yourself feel better. However, that's not the world we live in. The world we live in is where there's a lot of individuals. There's a lot of individuals who put others down to make themselves feel better. That's that bullying problem. Didn't they come with what was it? 13 Reasons Why. I'm not going to get into that, but it's the world we live in. And just like how in the video that I was showing, they talked a lot about how in this day, the economy and society that we live in. Hey, babe.
You're a
the society that we live in. We all right now, the word that is trending is narcissist. Now, we cannot really say that narcissist is a bad thing due to the fact that they are doing what they need to do in order to thrive in this economy. Because when you look at it, a lot of narcissistic individuals are thriving in this economy. We're living in a time to where it's your status is what makes you.
right.
And when it comes down to narcissists, they're all about their status and how they look, what they look like to other people. So they always want to make sure that they're always the best. They want to make sure that they're always the best, and anybody who else is doing good, they're going to try and make them seem like they're not really as good as who they are.
Right.
They're going to do as much as they can to make that person seem bad, so all eyes can be on them.
Right.
And a lot of CEOs and companies, what do? They need to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are trending and all that stuff, they need to find that perfect picture. They always need to look perfect. They always need to do everything perfect. And you wonder why they're always so stressed out or why they're always beating themselves up or trying to beat other people down. Because they need to find some way to how you stay.
Right.
You should never have to put anyone down to make yourself feel better, to feel better. You work on yourself. They rather put others down than work on themselves because it's easier.
Right. There's no threshold to satisfaction. There's no limit. There's nothing that anyone can say hey, this is where my limit is, this is where I can function, this is where I can manage, I'm good, fuck everybody else around me. I'm good where I'm at. If you can do that, then there's some self-esteem there's self-love, there is a strength in you that most people don't have. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting because again, I said before the 1%, but they birth these ideologies, and this is all a psychological thing. I was reading something years ago about the American Psychological Association and how they were admitting that they screwed with the minds of people in certain communities in order to keep them in this place to where they they were at the poorest state in their own brain. They couldn't rise above a specific level. Everything that they seen, everything that they grew up around, everything that they seen was the limit. And so them trying to break through that glass ceiling or break through the ceiling of that, it was impossible because 9 times out of 10, in order to get an insurmountable amount of money, they had to do something illegal to get it. And the cap is law enforcement. So they're gonna watch you for a while and let you get to a certain point, but they're gonna knock you right back down. But only to say that there's a limit on my self-worth. There's a limit on how well I can feel about taking care of my family because it's not consistent. There's no consistency in being able to help myself, and that's a problem as well. I mean, everything surrounding that person, when you feel like you're failing the people that you love, and you're essentially failing yourself. So if you're trying to pay the rent before the first of the month and you don't have the money, you're facing eviction. I mean, it's just a number of things that begin to happen, that pitfalls that either people throw their hands up or they fight so hard until they're at a place where their mental breaks. But it's all a system that's created to keep us in a place to where we can't achieve or can't attain anything. Out of 100, remember these statistics when we were doing youth work. Out of the 100 kids that we served, we can count on maybe 2 of them to get enough information or to believe in themselves enough to build them to build themselves up enough to be successful.
People enough to serve to enslave us to keep us down.
Did you hear that?
No, what did you say?
He said they are only giving people enough to serve to enslave us to keep us down.
That's it. 100%. That's it. And there's maybe a handful or even maybe 1 or 2 people out of 100 that can make it to a place where they can actually do better. And the messed up thing about it is if you turn around and try to help your community or help your family, they'll drown you before you're able to get to a place where you can actually say, I've made it.
That falls into what we're going to be talking about. What we're going to be talking about next on the next episode. Why can't blacks stand together?
Climb out crab.
The solidarity right there. Solidarity. But yes, that one's going to be good. I hope you can join me on that one. When we do that, I'll give the information if I haven't already. But go ahead and continue.
Yeah. No, it was pretty much that, and it's sad because when you do think about the ones that actually are in the mind frame that, I don't care what else is going on in the world, I have set my goals. I mean, you think about people that Kobe Bryant played basketball, his ethic to making sure he got out of the type of life that he had in order to make it. I mean, the things that his father taught me, he remembered. But there's an ethic involved in loving and caring about yourself, because if you're going to do anything effectively, it starts with you having a pattern of doing things. It's you get up in the morning. What is the first thing that you do? What do you say when you look in the mirror? You brush your teeth, you wash your face, you take a shower, you get out there, you eat, you put your clothes on, you go to work. If you can do that consistently for 21 plus days, then you've created a habit for yourself. And in creating a habit for yourself, there's nothing else around you that can destroy that habit, because you're in this mindset that this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to keep doing regardless of what's happening or who's saying what around me. So it takes self-worth and self-love in order to be consistent in literally anything to make yourself successful. So that's one way to measure if you're there in that place or not, or you're there mentally enough to block out the noise that's making everybody else believe.
No, why can't people all stand together? It has nothing to do with race.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with
it. It has nothing to do with race.
But yeah, so the topic that we're going to end up covering next on the next episode is mainly for the melanated, because when you think about it, the melanated community is the ones that seem to have the hardest time standing together. Right. For example, Jews, they have their own community. Koreans have their own community. Chinese have their own community. Asians, Indians have their own little community. Everybody has their own thing except for the melanated. So I want to speak on that. Why is it that everybody else can come together and create things together, but for some reason, the only thing that melanated individuals can stand together on is crime against one another?
Barely standing on that. Barely standing on that.
That's right. The only time that melanated people really come together is for the newest J's or designer clothing standing in line, which there's issues that come up with that, but you don't see a whole lot of melanated communities. Back in the day when we would try and have some that would get burned out or washed out and flooded over, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So this is not necessarily a race thing. I'm not trying to turn it into a race thing. I just want to talk about how specifically we have a hard time coming together. Right. Now, I'm not trying to turn it into a racist thing. Everybody's doing good, but for some reason, we're having a hard time getting our shit together.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much the gist of what that episode is going to be about. And that's going to be dropping next week. I'm gonna do a live on that on Monday, but I'm gonna drop that episode on Wednesday.
Right.
So yeah, keep up, look for it. But hey, thank you for whatever you sent. What was that? Thank you for the hearts. Much love and appreciate it. I appreciate gifts, but I really don't want them. It's honestly a communication that I seek. So if you want to show love, you can double tap that screen. You can like, share. No, seriously, you can like and you can share. I'm like the sending gifts. That's your hard-earned money. Okay, it's already hard out there for a pimp trying to get the money for the rent. So don't give me the money that you could be using for something else. All right.
Right.
I mean, with that, you can double tap the screen if y'all on TikTok or if you're on anywhere else. Just go ahead and share it. Because when you share it, you can leave comments. That right there will rank the algorithm to where more people who enjoy this content, just like how you enjoy it, will also find it as well. To where we can have more conversations like this and get more people in here to where we can have conversations with more like-minded individuals just like yourselves, all right?
Right.
So I thank you for that. But that's all that I ask. Share it. Pass that wisdom, pass that knowledge on and turn it to wisdom with other individuals. Much love and appreciate it. But with that, we've been on here for going on about an hour. Is there anything else that you want to say? Anything you want to give a shout out to? Anything that you are doing that you are at a point to where you can speak about it?
Pretty much. I mean, anything I do moving forward is it's always from the scope of understanding where everyone is at this place right now, because the hardest thing to do is to look into a community and know where you can begin to help. And it's, you know, you hear that you have the nonprofit organizations, you got the churches, you have everyone that's been in circulation for a number of years, but nothing really effective has come out of anything that they've done. I'm not saying it hasn't fixed problems for some, but what can we do on a larger scale? How can we, like the other person said, how can we come together and stand together and begin to be supportive enough to where we see a dent in the issues that we're having as a society, or as people, period. But yeah, these questions, the thing that you're asking right now, it's been something in my heart for the last, I want to say last 12, 13 years. And it's what I have realized though is it's not about money. You can take whatever amount of money and drop it into whatever place. It's not going to fix a problem.
It's not.
Because along with these issues come behavioral health, severe psychological issues, and until you can pull yourself out of that piece, you can't be effective, and you can't be effective. You can't change effectively. And so what I understand is building with people that are like-minded and have the ability to think critically, so we can build something around people that can actually they can take it that they can take advantage of to begin to get healthy again. Because there's a lot of things that have hurt our society as well, and specifically for me, I've watched how religion, an ideology of one or two people or a group of people have destroyed the fabric of individuals that were really on the track to where they wanted the help but couldn't get it. You know what I'm saying? So that's some things like that need to change, and some people need to realize, hey, if you're enough, you're okay. If you reach inside of yourself, if you look inside of yourself, you find that there's enough. Nothing that anybody has outside of you is going to fix you. It's easier for you to fix and mend yourself than somebody else on the outside. Because remember,
start from the person. If you have no community, you have lost yourself.
That's it. That's it. And at any rate, even if you're trying to help somebody, even if somebody's trying to help from the outside, someone's going to always ask the question, "How can I help you?" And you are the only person that has the answer to that question. So if you haven't dug on the inside to figure out what that problem is, then everybody's going to be spinning their wheels trying to figure out what can we do next to impact enough to where this person can stand up and begin to be strong enough to put himself back into him or herself back into a place where they can function again. You know, so.
Yeah, that that was a perfect way to sum it up. If
Right.
you a lot of questions that people get asked, it's really trying to it, all questions that you get asked is a moment to really reflect on yourself.
That's it.
Every, even when it comes down to something small, like what is your favorite color? You can take that so much deeper.
Right.
Okay, my favorite color is blue. All right,
Yeah,
bet.
they'll yell you cannot help unless they are willing to help themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna finish what I was about to say, and then I'm gonna go into what you just said again. For example, if you asked me what my favorite color was and I said blue, okay, now I can take it a little deeper and be like, okay, why do I like blue?
Mhm.
So I think about why I like blue. What are the things that draws me to blue? Then also thinking about what the definition, what are the different um, shades of blue? What are the meanings of those?
Right.
Okay, well, which shade what resonates with me the most? Okay, what does that tell me about myself? I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of things that something that simple can tell you a lot about a person.
Right. Right. Right.
Now, going into what you said, Ian, my mother told me you can never want something for somebody more than they want it for themselves. So with the same thing, I had family members that I had to cut off because the fact that they are stuck wanting to play victim mode and have to be stuck in that victim mentality rather than taking a look at themselves. Even though they've been called out by everybody in the family to the point where they stopped talking to family and started pulling other people outside of family into their business because they got tired of being told that they were
Right.
wrong.
Right.
I mean, yes, if someone doesn't want to help themselves, you cannot help them. And do not keep pouring into other people and running your bones, running your cup dry.
Right.
Because when the cup shatters, that's dust, my guy.
That's
You
it.
lost your identity.
If you care more about them than they care about themselves, then it's a losing battle. You're losing.
Matter of fact, you're a mechanic, and so I know you're gonna answer this. But Ian, think of it like this: if you are a machine and your engine runs out of oil, what's gonna happen?
You're going to stop running. Either the engine's going to lock up and the vehicle breaks down. It's going to have to be repaired.
You're destroying yourself because you're not giving yourself what you need.
Right.
And what you need most is yourself. Because how are you going to help anybody else if you are broken? That's why a lot of people end up unaliving themselves because they're giving everything they have to someone else who does not appreciate it.
Mm.
Now, it's not necessarily they're giving it to someone else who they care for. It can be random people you're walking past and you're pouring into everybody else without getting anything in return. This is the importance of self love, self
Yeah.
compassion,
Right.
and your self worth.
Right.
For
Right.
if you do not know what your self worth is, if you do not value yourself, let me put it like that. If you
Mhm.
don't value yourself, you truly don't value anything else.
Yeah.
Because, like you said earlier, Ian, how can you love something if you don't love yourself?
That's it.
And if you're not valuing yourself, that means that your life is meaningless to everybody else.
Right.
So, for you to think that you are something to someone else when you don't think that you alone are something, you're lying to yourself and everybody around you.
Right.
You already have lost your identity.
Right. Definitely. I agree. I
But hey,
agree.
this was another episode of Divine Time. You like how we just went deep and I was like, just cut off. But no, alive. Go ahead and just leave a comment and share it. If you want to like it because it resonated with you or there was something in there that you really enjoy, please go ahead and leave a comment. I want to hear your opinion on it. Again, I ask that you just share it or even like the episode because that right there will put us on the algorithms where other individuals can see this and the things that we're talking about to bring more people who are like you and like
Yeah,
us
they'll yell you are
into
broken, you have to keep your self will or you cannot help.
yeah, you are broken. You have to keep yourself well, or you cannot help. Facts on facts, just like we said. But as I said, this was the end of Divine Time. Like, share with as many people as you can, or either just share it in general. Because when you do that, you'll bring more people who are like-minded like us, and with that, we can have more conversations and more people to chime in on those conversations. Once again, thank you, Ian Bell. You will be shout out just like I did right now on the podcast when I drop it on the audio and also on YouTube. So thank you, Ian. Every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I go live on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm going to start going live on Twitch and Kick as well. Come check us out. Check us out. With that, again, I say share and like. Get us known out there to everybody. So where those who need to hear these messages, hear these messages. That way they can be a part of divine time, because everything comes in divine time. Relax your mind. It's divine time.
Tell Yell that I will have to see you on the other side. Bye.
Yes, sir. Blessed up, blessed up.